Hello, and welcome to the new Assessment, Forms, and Resources Blackboard Ultra course shell. In the interest of using as much faculty feedback as we can and also streamlining assessment efforts to the best of our ability, the Assessment Committee has created this new Blackboard course shell to house not only submission portals for all assessment reports going forward, but also all resources. Now, of course, I do definitely recommend that you still check out anything provided by the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, their YouTube channel, the section of their page that has a bunch of assessment resources. All of that is great, but the committee has worked really hard to make sure that whatever you need to complete your report can be found in this Blackboard shell here. Now, when you get access to it, you will see in this section a note about the video that you're currently watching. So that'll be here, but otherwise, everything you see on this screen will be exactly as it is right now. Everything will be at your fingertips for you to utilize as you're filling out your course or program or both assessment reports. Now, before we get into anything else, I do want to make sure that if you are wondering whether or not you need to assess a specific course or a set of outcomes for a course or a program, I do really encourage you to A, speak with your faculty mentor. If you are in a department of multiple people, that is a group decision, so make sure that you are communicating with the relevant parties. Or if you are a program director, make sure that you are looking at your past assessment report. If you opened up a loop last semester, you need to go back to those same outcomes. So let's make sure to keep those consistent. Remember, too, to figure out what courses you need to assess in fall or spring, you need to look at your course assessment cycle that was completed in fall of 2024. Once you're ready, though, that's when this section is going to come in handy. So this video is just going to provide a quick tour of everything in here that is here to make sure that your assessment portion of your job is as easy as possible. If you are an assessment committee member, I have a quick note about faculty handbook, roles and recommendations, and any relevant documents. So let's say that you're watching this video and you are entirely new to the assessment committee. You can get into the weeds with regard to what the assessment committee is, what we do, as is stipulated from the faculty handbook, any roles of recommendations for the role of a chair or the role of a regular member, and then general recommendations for if you're setting course evaluations, things of that nature. But I'm not going to get too far into that because this is for all faculty. So we're going to start instead with the assessment basics section. Let's say that, hypothetically, you are a brand new faculty member, and maybe you're entirely new to assessment. Not a big deal. You've got lots of different resources available. Of course, I do definitely recommend having a conversation with your faculty mentor, your chair, your dean, whoever the chairs are of the assessment committee, whenever it is that you join Mount West. But this section can definitely help. So in What is Assessment, we define assessment utilizing the term and definition directly from our glossary that's in our assessment manual that's provided later on here in Blackboard. We have information about Bloom's taxonomy, how we use it, the different types of assessment that you can find here at Mount West, and in general, a link to our assessment glossary, why we assess in the first place, and then some contact information for the committee chairs. We also have information about what assessment looks like here at Mount West. Here is an example of one of those course assessment cycles, what assessment and CETL have in common. So where can you find these resources? There's a link to our YouTube channel, and then any procedures that may be relevant. So we have the administrative procedure from the AY year 24 to 25, and then we also have the assessment manual. So a lot of that is foundational. If you need to go back to the basics, all of that information is provided right here. Under that, you are going to see 3 other modules: course assessment, program assessment, and adjunct assessment. Course and program are set up the same way, and here is what I mean. When you click on that module, you're going to see first a refresher, which is just kind of a reminder of like, hey, here's why we do it, here's how we handle it, etc. You're going to see a sample form, which is the blank version of the form you're going to fill out. We have 2 successful examples, and then the actual submission portal for the course assessment report. In this case, it's fall 2025, so it's going to be due January 9th, and that is a Friday. So let's go ahead and check out the refresher section. So in this section, we get a little bit more information about the course assessment cycle, what course assessment looks like at Mount West, course learning outcomes versus program learning outcomes, and some general best practices. And of course, always remember here in bold, assessment is never punitive. So here in this best practices section, we just have some basic recommendations. Like, remember, when you see the word measure in terms of your assessment measure, it just means assignment. Or you should be assessing 2 or more course learning outcomes. Or even if, students are not submitting assignments and that is a core piece of the narrative, if you include those zeros, it's going to bring your data down. So instead, just focus on students that have submitted work and then include in your narrative, oh, by the way, a couple folks also didn't turn work in. So a lot of those standard best practices are provided here as reminders. Here in the sample form, you'll find all of the questions that you'll be asked to fill out. So everything from instructor information all the way down to the improvement plan. And to make it as easy as possible, we do also have a template that includes all of this information. So let's say hypothetically you're looking at this and you are like, I'm not going to write all of that. Fair enough. We would not ask you to do so. What you can do is hit download. And then once you have downloaded the document, we drag it over here. You can see it's preset. All of the directions are already here in the template. You just need to type in it. That's it. So we've got all of that ready for you. Now, again, let's say that you want to see some examples. Maybe you're new to assessment or you're really still just trying to get your sea legs. In the examples section, we have 2 different options. So the first is from a microbiology lab. So we can see here the questions or the different content areas in kind of a standard font, and then in bold we have the answers. So we have the course, the division, the outcomes, the assignment, how that measure, is looking into those outcomes. So we have the instructions, we have the assignment itself, whether or not a rubric was used, and then a breakdown of that data in relation to those individual course learning outcomes and how we're going to improve student learning based on those outcomes. The other option we have is from Medical Office Techniques 2, and same deal, course, division, and then in bold, you can see all of the answers that were provided. I do want to note too, these are both really good examples. Only one of them used a rubric. Keep in mind, not every assignment is going to be rubric applicable. So if you're not using a rubric, that's okay, provided you have some other kind of assessment metric. If you don't, let's say that you are instead just kind of like, evaluating students as they're presenting, but you don't have a streamlined, concrete way in which you're evaluating them. In a context like that, you do really need a rubric. But if you're doing an exam, for instance, rubrics aren't going to be as widely applicable. Instead, you want to look at success rates in relation to specific questions. It really just depends on the kind of assignment. So you've got those examples there, and then once you're ready to submit, you will see the submission portal. Now, if you are at all familiar with using the submission portal option for your students, this probably is something you've seen before, but if not, I do want to note, 1, you're going to see your due date. 2, this is going to be evaluated with a rubric. It's the same rubric that we used last time, so the same rubric that faculty have seen already. And then I want to note too that it is worth a whopping 0 points. You cannot fail this assignment. Once you click on View Instructions, you're going to be brought to an instructions section, and there again is that template as well. So again, if you don't want to type out all of the questions, we are not asking that you do so. You can just download the template, write in your answers, and then once you have it, you're going to hit this paperclip icon. Let's say that this right here is your submission. We're going to hit save. And then once it's clocked our submission, there we go. And you can always review your submission right here. I always tell my students to do that too. Like, make sure you're attaching the right file. Once you've attached the file, you just hit this black submit button down here in the bottom right corner. All right, now same principle applies for program assessment. We have a refresher, we have a sample report, we have examples, and then there is the official submission portal. I'm recording this video in October of 2025, so we do not have a date set for the spring 2026 program assessment report, but when we do, that portal is going to look just like this. You'll have a template that you can download, you just need to fill it out, and then put it into Blackboard. And one of the many benefits of using Blackboard is that because the rubric is already embedded into the system, as soon as the assessment committee member evaluates your work, you will get your feedback immediately. No more keeping track of physical documents, no more keeping track of the links for the Microsoft forms. Everything will be in one place. Now, if you are an adjunct, we do have some information about adjunct assessment down here. So adjunct assessment is super, super important. We have adjuncts that are teaching some of our general education classes, which a lot, if not all, students have to take most general education classes. Not everybody is going to take English 102 or things of that nature, but you're going to take gen eds, right? Those students are going to take those classes. So we have adjuncts teaching those big classes. And then we also have, in equal importance, right, adjuncts teaching program courses, maybe even a capstone. So we really want to make sure that we are getting data from these adjuncts, because they're doing just as, much important stuff as we are. So if you are an adjunct and you are doing assessment for Mount West, what should you do? Here are kind of a step-by-step series of actions that I would recommend if you are an adjunct handling assessment for Mount West. Number 1, touch base with your respective faculty mentor, chair, or dean. Some adjuncts only need to send data to their faculty mentor. So for example, for English, I only have the adjuncts in our department send us their data. They don't have to fill out their own report because we have one person write a report for all of English 101 or all of English 102. However, you might be in a situation where if you are an adjunct but you're the only one teaching that course, you will have to fill out a report. So you want to make sure to communicate with your faculty mentor, your chair, your dean, whomever you've been told to speak with, to make sure that you are doing the right thing. Depending on the response you receive, you may be tasked with completing course assessments, program assessments, or both. Course assessments happen every semester. However, each department or program has its own course assessment cycle that I mentioned earlier. You will need to obtain that from your faculty mentor or your direct report. Program assessment usually happens at the conclusion of the spring semester. So if you're watching this right now and it's fall, you've got a little time, but I do definitely recommend being prepared. Both of those reports will be completed here in Blackboard. And then once you know what courses you're assessing, make sure to identify the assignment that you'll be using to assess student learning. That assignment should measure at least 2 learning outcomes. And if you are an adjunct teaching in a department with multiple people, it is very likely that that team has already identified the assignment. For example, I'm just going to keep using English because that's what I do. We all assess the same assignment using the same rubric. So that information is communicated to all of the English adjuncts. If you are an adjunct in a department that is not a department of one, then please make sure to reach out to the rest of the members of your department or your program to ensure you are working with the same assignment and, if relevant, the same rubric. And then after the assignment has been completed, you're going to complete that assessment report for those designated courses or program. You'll submit that data, and then, if you can, right, hold on to it. Of course, it is going to be here on Blackboard, but I recommend holding it, backing it up somewhere else as well, because if you teach for us consistently as an adjunct, you are going to need to refer to that information the next time you assess this class. So have some way to back up that information. I do have contact information for the assessment chairs available here as well, but you'll notice a lot of these questions are predicated on you conversing with your faculty mentor, chair, or dean. So a lot of that is department or program level. So make sure that you are communicating with the relevant folks before you do anything else. We do also have a section pertaining to best practices. Oh my goodness, that is so tiny. I will fix that. That will not look like that when you see it. And then, of course, resources for adjuncts and new faculty, specifically linked either on the CEDL's website or on the YouTube channel. So almost everything you could possibly need for assessment, regardless of what kind you're doing, is available here in the assessment module, or Blackboard shell, rather. If you have questions, comments, concerns, anxieties, I do encourage you to reach out to the assessment committee. We do genuinely care about faculty feedback, thinking about, I want access to assessment sooner, and I don't want to deal with links, and I want everything to be digital. We hear you 100%. We think this will fix some of that. So if you have additional comments, questions, concerns, though, by all means, shoot me an email, let me know, talk to Sarah, that's also fine. But we're here to help you through any step of the way on your assessment journey. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to reading your assessment reports. Have a good day.